Okay, so real quickly, first of all, thanks very much to Dean for setting us up for so much success this morning. I think that we're going to have some really great conversations here. Just so everybody knows, a little introduction of myself. You're all like, who is this person? Why is he here? My name is Sean Michael Morris. I am the co-founder of a digital journal called Digital Pedagogy and a professional learning event called Digital Pedagogy Lab. That was run for about 7 years all over the world in different ways. The reason that I am here is because Digital Pedagogy Lab was very much this kind of event where it was very community focused, everyone sort of helping each other out, talking to each other about a variety of different possible topics related to digital pedagogy. Anything really, anything to do with digital. This was long before AI came around, Gen AI came around. But one of the things that happened when we went, when everyone had to go remote and everyone had to go online during COVID, was we had this event, and we had very carefully constructed this event to be an on-ground event. We never made it hybrid. We never broadcast any pieces of it because we thought what's important is the human connection, is people being in a room together doing this work together. Now that didn't make it very accessible, and we understood that, and we did everything we could to make it as accessible as possible. But the whole point was we have to get people together in a room. That's just better than being online in so many ways. Then comes COVID. And what do we do? And so I was looking for a tool that could create a dynamic community in an online space. And what I found was Yellowdig. And everyone said, how are you going to do this? It was a 1 week institute that we ran annually. And everyone was like, how are you going to possibly build community in 1 week, asynchronously, online, across 20 time zones? And I said, well, I found this tool. And it worked. It worked brilliantly. It was amazing. People jumped in, they participated, it went crazy, and it was just a fantastic thing. So when they invited me to come to this summit, I was flattered, first of all, and then I was just like, of course, I definitely want to be there because my whole work has always been about human connection. And I'm sorry, last night I was at the reception and I talked way too much and way too loud, and so my voice is suffering. So that's who I am. So for the next little bit, what we're going to be doing is who in here has attended an unconference? Okay, so with an unconference, the way that an unconference works is people select what topics they want to talk about, very much the way that we have done here today, with sticky notes everywhere. And then it's called voting with your feet. Essentially what you do is you decide what conversation you want to have. And so you go to that conversation. So we're not going to say this many people are going to be in this one, this many people are going to be this one. You're going to go to the conversation that's most interesting to you, at least to start off. We're actually going to ask you to switch up conversations partway through. So we'll have a certain amount of time where you'll be talking, probably 10, 15, maybe minutes, talking about that one topic and centered on those questions that you all have come up with. And then we'll switch. Now, if you really like the topic that you're with, you don't have to switch. You can stay exactly where you're at. But I do encourage you to jump around the room, meet new people, and sort of figure out what can you contribute to conversations that are not the one you chose. So, all right, so it's pretty simple, and that's really all I'm here to do is direct people around. So we have 4 sections of the room. We've got this section over here. And I do expect, I don't expect, but I'm going to encourage people to move chairs, move tables, do whatever you need to do to get comfy. So this area over here that is going to be dealing with connection and belonging. These are based on the themes that I saw come up with all of the questions that came up. So we have connection and belonging. The 2 questions over here written in tiny scrawl that is mine. How do we prioritize connecting and listening? And what does genuine human connection look like? Now, if you're the person who came up with either of those questions, you may choose to guide the conversation. You might get it started. So you may want to jump into that group. But if you get with those questions, you don't want to talk about them, that's also fine. Someone else will start the conversation, I'm sure. So connection and belonging. You're going to start with these 2 questions. Now, where you go is totally up to you. These are just fodder for your conversation. How do we prioritize connecting and listening? And what does genuine human connection look like? There were other human connection questions that came up as well. Oh, the other one's over here. And so if you remember some of those questions, you can bring them up in that conversation too. This next one is really sort of relationship with AI. There were a lot of questions that came up about sort of what is the appropriate relationship with generative AI between human being and AI. So what we have is one question is AI a collaborator or a tool? And what should be human driven versus AI driven? So that's sort of the context for this conversation over there. I'm also going to encourage you, because you're not going to remember everything I'm saying, to get a look around at the ones before you make it so where you're going to hang out. Over here in this area is maybe student success. I have to say, I don't know if it's the sort of sound dynamics of this room or if it's just everybody. This is the quietest, loudest group I've ever been in. Like you could actually talk in this group, which is really wild. I thought everyone would be yelling at each other over everyone else. Okay, just quickly, just to kind of wrap up, I would love to, and I'm going to do that thing that teachers do, are supposed to do, where I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to go completely silent, and I will stay silent until someone says something. So I'm actually weirdly good at that. The question that I have, I'd love to hear any kind of feedback at all, really, not just on the exercise, but kind of what did you learn from this process? We didn't go into this with any sense of outcome, like what you were going to get from this. We didn't say, okay, we want you to come up with some sort of practical guidelines or whatever from all of this. So the intention was what outcomes are kind of going to emerge from this conversation. And that's sort of in the keeping of the unconference sort of tradition. But I'd love to hear any kind of feedback, but mostly I want to hear whether or not anyone used generative AI to participate in this conversation. I'm seeing so many shaking heads, so nobody did. So why not?
I think it's because we want to learn from each other. I think we've got so many, the sessions I was in was great. It was like, oh, you can do that. So I think it's the reason why we're here, is that we want to learn from each other. There is that human connection that's more important for us being here and talking about and engaging and looking at these different ideas and listening and going, and think about that. So, yeah. Cool.
Good. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think we all generally had thoughts as well as we came into it. If we hadn't, maybe that would spur us to go into using the AI. But we all came with our own,
Okay. Other thoughts? Yeah.
I admitted this to our group because of social pressure. Because I'm not somebody to get up in front of everybody, but here I am again, getting up in front of everybody and saying why. Because there's people here. I have to interact with people because we're here.
Okay. So we have to interact with them. Okay. Other thoughts? Yeah.
That's a bit 1 year instructions, right? You just start just get people to talk to each other. So that was part of it. And then I think habit, we are not generative, we're probably not in the habits of going to any kind of AI tool and asking for advice yet. That's coming eventually where in 30 years you may have a similar gathering and ask a question.
Interesting. Other thoughts? I heard some really interesting conversations. Oh, do we have someone? Oh, sorry.
I think along those lines, it's augmentive, right? So it helps us iterate. And right now the interface is not there to actually be able to do it live stream. 10 years ago, we wouldn't have thought about cars that help us stay in our lanes, but now they do, and it's secondhand. So it will come.
Yeah, I actually heard someone from the GSV group talk about it as augmented intelligence and not artificial intelligence. Here.
I mean, echoing very similar, it did not, it's a solution to a problem that we did not need in this space.
Is it a solution to a problem that we do need at all?
I think also we all had agency in that we came up with these questions. So we used it the first time because you came up with questions. You were the instructor, you told us what the question was, and then we had to answer that. And then from this was us, and maybe that has something to do with why we get moved forward.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, okay, hold on.
We're also not the audience that we go to ChatGPT and YouTube. Most of us, some, the generations that came after me are more attuned to going straight to ChatGPT. So that might have some dynamics. We're missing our person here who went to it. So I'm wondering if it isn't, just regards to it and native technology.
Melissa, you have a question?
I think it's the approach too, and what I wanted to get out of it. Because I have a couple of generative AI platforms on my phone, and if this was a task that I needed to complete, and I was approaching it that way, I might have gone to them. But instead, I came to this with the approach of, I want to listen and learn, and maybe I have a few tidbits that I can contribute to help other people too. So it just wasn't a task that required that sort of assistance.
Cool, awesome. I think, yeah,
So I might be on the other side of the table where I use generative AI all the time, specifically ChatGPT. So I use it all the time, but this is one of those moments where I see everyone in the room and I want to connect with these people. This isn't a moment where I'm thinking, oh, I got to use ChatGPT to fix this. I want to hear from these people. This is a moment for me to connect with others, not to answer a question. I'm here. I want to speak to not just people that I know, like Dr. Nugan or Angie or Yoon. I want to meet Michael and everyone else that's around here and get their perspective on it.
thank you. So that's fascinating. So I've often tried to decide how much to say. What you just said was actually really interesting to me. This is a moment to connect with people, not answer a question. What is education, I guess, is the question that comes to mind. Is it just a long process of answering a question? Or answering questions? Or is it about that human connection? I think that's part of what we're here to talk about. I think, I'm not treading in the wrong space, but I know that there's a lot of educational solutions out there, ed tech out there that is about answering the question and about getting to the answer of the question. And even your LMS is about getting to the answer of the question, right? Because it's about finishing learning objectives, getting to a place where you can have a grade on a scorecard, basically. And I think that's, again, I go back to Yellowdig. I feel like there's a different thing that Yellowdig and other platforms can bring to education that's about this. It's about this conversation. How do we then think about this in terms of what we do in teaching, how we teach teachers, talk to students? Is this something that we would trust our students to do? This kind of conversation, I think. So anyway, I'm just going to leave those questions. And I know that everyone can smell lunch and everyone's hungry. So I'm just going to stop there. But thank you all so much for your participation. This was fantastic.